On this episode of ResiWeek, CEDIA offers free training. Should integrators be essential services? And studio movies are now released at home. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 215. Please talk about puppies.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Crestron.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And this week, we are pleased to be joined by Jeremy Glowacki. He is the executive editor of Residential Tech Today. How are you, sir?
I'm great. So nice to see people for a change.
If you have been living under a rock, most states are in some form of lockdown other than Mr. Siaka's because they don't care down there. We just got announced today that we are locking down tomorrow, which will possibly affect our next guest, Mr. Kevin Mann. He's the president of Taurus Power, just down the road from me. How are you, sir?
We're hanging in. It's been a stressful week, but we're still here. So.
And it's Monday.
And it's Monday.
Which is the best. And it's not even over. We still got a couple hours to go.
Yeah.
Then we have John Siaka. He is a partner at Custom Theater. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Matt. How are you?
Doing fantastic. He is not in lockdown. You're not?
Not in lockdown.
And last but certainly not least, we have my good friend Dennis Berger. He's the senior editor at Home Theater Review, and he unfortunately traded his webcam for new wheels for the vet. So he is not on camera, but how are you, sir?
I am doing well, and you're welcome. Nobody wants to see me right now because I haven't washed my hair since Friday, and I'm not wearing britches. So
I'm just visualizing that and kind of enjoying it.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, let's kick this off with a couple of things. First, I want to touch on this coming to us from Residential Tech Today. CEDIA has offered essentially free online training for pretty much their entire catalog. They're doing live webcasts and a bunch of other things because people are not working. There's a second part of this I want to talk about, but Jeremy, let's start with you for just a quick second on this. CEDIA was not necessarily the first person to jump in or the first organization to jump in and do this, but how important has it been to see, CEDIA take a leadership position in this and say, hey, we know there's a bunch of people who can't work right now. They can't go out and visit clients. Here's an opportunity for you to, once you've had your people clean the shop, the showroom, and the trucks 3 times last week, here's something for you to do this week.
Yeah, I mean, I said when I posted it was a great move on their part, and it's like kind of an obvious move, but it's the right thing to do. It's only free for CEDIA members. I think there'd be something to be said for opening it up beyond CEDIA members at this point because things are just so extreme. But for now, it's for folks who are already members, and you don't have to pay anything extra for some of these courses. I saw today that URC sent out an email that they're also providing just links to training, and I think other manufacturers are going to start doing similar things like that just to try to keep everyone engaged and working on their business while they can, while they're not perhaps as distracted. I'm hoping that certain places are able to keep working on projects, keep finishing things up, but there will become a time when starting new projects is going to be difficult. Consumers are going to put things on hold. I'm afraid it's just the inevitable here. And it's a good time to get, some of the things you just put off because you can't find the time during the day to do it, frankly.
And unfortunately, training usually falls under that. Part of what makes this such a big deal is the fact that, Kevin, it was announced about 30 minutes ago that Ontario and Quebec are stopping all essential businesses, have to shut down as of Tuesday. So really even before this posts, Tuesday at midnight. Michigan announced late yesterday, shelter at home. California, Indiana, Illinois. There's a slew of states that are doing this, as well as provinces. Kevin, what is this going to do for you as a manufacturer? I'd like to think that you're essential. Your power conditioning is essential to me, but what does this mean as a manufacturer for yourself, for other manufacturers, as essentially the government is starting to dictate what businesses can stay open through this?
Yeah, it's hard. It would be hard to argue that what we do is essential. But that said, our partner factory here in Toronto does make products for the medical equipment manufacturers. There's a possibility that they could be declared an essential manufacturing company. And we do have a partner facility in Northern California who is working on a large project right now with Pacific Gas, and they were declared on Friday an essential manufacturing company. So, I don't know. My understanding that the CEDIA integrators were also kind of deemed to be essential, which I think is a good thing for people that are having to make changes right now in terms of their working environment and having to be working out of their home when they're used to working out of an office environment. But there's a lot of changes coming with regards to this. For our business in particular, it's really hour to hour right now for us. Even if the manufacturing facility in Toronto is declared an essential service, it could very well be that it gets closed down anyway, just for the safety of the people in the factory. So for us, it could mean that we're on pause for a little while. And, our hope in that case is that we can do our best to minimize the impact of this and try to get things reopened as quickly as possible. It's hard to really say beyond that, Matt, what's likely. We're really just waiting and, wait and see and hour by hour right now, to be honest.
Yeah, I understand that. John, I want to come to you on this. As Kevin alluded to, and this was reported in CE Pro, that the federal government has labeled integrators as essential critical infrastructure workers. Department of Homeland issued those guidelines saying that essentially you can continue to install in home offices during this coronavirus situation. Now, obviously, essential means something different depending who you talk to. For somebody who is working in a state where this has not necessarily come down yet, you're not locked down, you guys are still operating business as normal. Once this changes, or if this changes for you in your state, is this something where you'll take that as a badge and say, hey, we're essential, we're allowed to be out and doing stuff? Will you start to, look at that differently and continue to work, even though you've got that, work stoppage / on the flip side, you have the essential services stipulation?
It's a difficult question because we're not there yet. I guess that we'd have to look at it, on a case-by-case business, talk to our installers and see how they feel. I mean, obviously, if they're uncomfortable doing something, we're not going to ask them to do something that they're uncomfortable. And if the homeowner is uncomfortable with us coming over, kind of seeing that a little bit as well. Even as I mentioned off air, we have very, very few cases where I live so far, but I had a guy the other morning, we had an appointment. I called him that morning to confirm that he still wanted me to come over. He said, yes, come over. I drove all the way out to his house. He met me on his front porch and said, I don't want you to come in. And I'm thinking, okay, man, this is something you could have told me 40 minutes ago when we were on the phone. But we are getting actually several calls on people that have come down here. They're going to be homeschooling their kids for the next however long amount of time. And they've asked us to come in, make sure the network is all up and working, improve the network. We're getting, quite a few calls like that. So it's difficult, as a business owner, one of my top tier concerns is my guys. And, if we close down, not all of them can weather, weeks without getting a paycheck or whatever that would be. When we had the economic problems years ago, we were really transparent. We opened up our checkbook and showed our team, this is how much money that the company has. This is how long we think it will last. And this is what we're going to do to keep the doors open as long as possible. But we made a commitment to them that we were going to pay them 20 hours a week, whether that was sitting in a chair and, training, brushing up on stuff, cleaning the vans, whatever, or it was out working. We were going to guarantee them at least 20 hours a week, even if it was just eating those 20 hours. If we come to the point where, we're like New York or California, and, I'm sure that we'll have to revisit, what we want to do, but it will start with, what do my employees feel comfortable doing? And if when they tell us they're no longer comfortable working, then that will probably make the decision for us.
Gotcha. Very good. Dennis,
I'm not totally heartless, Matt.
I didn't think you were,
Okay.
yet as you were talking continually, all I kept hearing was the Heartless song in my head. That was just rolling through. Now, the new Morgan Wallen version, so it is a little updated, but Dennis, you're someone who spends a lot of time kind of working out of your home office.
Yes.
As you see this, again, being someone who's used to working from home,
yeah,
and kind of you have a gig where you can work from home.
Mm-hmm.
As you're seeing kind of the news roll out, you're seeing some of the stuff in some of the integration forums and stuff on Facebook and things like that, where, as I kind of had mentioned to John, there's integrators wearing this essential badge as, yeah, we can still work. We can get out there and do stuff. Does that give you pause? Does that concern you? Or is it something where you just kind of got to do what you got to do? If you can make money in this situation, take advantage and make money.
It gives me serious pause. A lot of people don't know about me, but I was almost a biologist. It's always been one of my passions, and it's still a major hobby of mine. And so I'm super into epidemiology, virology, and things like that. I've been looking at a couple of models as John was talking. I specifically looked at projection models for South Carolina. And no, it's because that's where John is. And looking at sort of what is coming and can you see it coming? And the reality of it is South Carolina is not now in nearly as bad a shape as anybody else. But like right now, if South Carolina does not change course by March 25th to March 30th, it's an estimate, this model's a little rough, then their hospitals are looking to be overwhelmed by either April 8th or April 24th, depending on what they do. And so a lot of people don't think about the fact that the actions we take today are affecting what happens 2 weeks from now. We're kind of living 2 weeks in the past with this crisis, and that's what a lot of people don't realize about it. So if you look at South Carolina in particular, it scoots along at nothing. Oh crap, we're overwhelmed. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize, and that's the danger of this is when you've got a virus like this that is spreading exponentially, then whatever you do right now is if you do what you need to do, it's going to look like you're overreacting, right? And then in the rearview mirror, it's going to look like an underreaction because we have no idea how bad this thing is going to be until it's on top of us. Like I said, just looking at these projections, if South Carolina takes no action, then on April 24th, they're going to have 111,000 hospitalizations by April 24th. If they just start taking the whole social distancing thing seriously, then by May 14th, they'll have 44,000. On the other hand, if they were to issue a shelter in place, model like New York and California are doing, then by May 18th, they're only going to have 1,100 hospitalizations. So it's a problem. People just don't understand epidemiology. They don't understand exponential spread. And so I'm really, really concerned.
So let me kind of ask any of you, anybody jump in. Is this something where we as an industry should be taking a stronger step? And yes, we've got, we're part of the essential services division, just like Home Depot. So you can go get your plywood and get an integrator. Should we be taking that as, yes, we can get out there and still work? Or should we be looking at this as a, you know what, you're going to be okay if your theater doesn't get finished, or if your multi-room audio, if you just need to pick up a couple, play ones from us, we'll drop them off at your door so that you have some music in your house. Unless it's, one of those situations like I had last week where I was sending people out to help get home offices up and running for large companies that had, employees that all of a sudden needed to do what we're doing right now in video conference from home. Where's the balance in that?
Boy, that's a good question. And I don't think anybody knows, but I think you're right that this industry needs to be doing something to take it more seriously. Because look, the more people that you interact with that are taking it seriously, the more likely you are to take it seriously. It's as simple as that. And if you call an integrator and realize that they're coming up to your house and they're like, oh, I'm not worried about it. Yeah, man, I'll put your Atmos speakers in. Yeah, just hang on. Then you're more likely to be like, oh, this is no big deal. Whereas if you call them and they're like, yeah, we're going to come and hook up your router, but we're going to be wearing a hazmat suit, then they're more likely to think, oh, I need to be cautious. So,
yeah, I mean, I've talked to some folks across the country and integration world, and you have varying degrees of this is getting serious. I was asking a very lightweight question for our magazine that's going to come out in a couple months, trying to not be focused entirely on this topic. And it was hard to get anyone, everyone was very polite, but people on the West Coast about a week and a half ago were like, dude, we're in the middle of this right now. I'd love to help you out, but I'm trying to figure out how to keep my employees, safe and fed. And then, I'd talked to, someone more in John's situation where it hadn't really reached that severity. But I've talked to some others who are like, yeah, we are taking it very seriously, but we've got some, clients that need our help. So what we do is we wipe everything down that we touch, and we have, our feet covered, the whole thing that usually our industry is very polite and good about not stomping around in boots in houses, right? So now you just take that to another level as far as, keeping things, from getting germs on them or virus on them. So it's definitely not something, you want to be casual about at all. And I think that most people aren't going to want to invite someone into their home just because of the risk of it. But those who are willing to roll the dice, I guess, they just, you need to take that little extra step.
I will say that our current policy as of, mid last week was gloves everywhere, masks if you can, just because it's hard to find masks right now, booties, sanitizer, all the whole kick. And the response from clients has either been, oh, thank you very much, or, oh, it's fine, come here, I want to give you a hug. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, we're good today. Let's change topics a little bit for a second. Everyone's been reporting this. John, you wrote a great article on this. It was, I think, kind of initially reported on by Engadget that Universal is releasing movies in the theaters or technically in the theaters at the same time that they are at home. I chuckle in that because our theaters have been shut down for about a week now, so nothing's been released. But if you haven't followed this is, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time that they have ever done a major studio has done a release in theater, quote unquote, and direct download or something beyond, again, some of those obscure, incredibly expensive solutions. What do you see happening with this, John, as far as, obviously it's cool, it's great. For about $20, I believe, you can go download and watch a new film that was supposed to come to theaters today, tomorrow, next week. What is this going to do for those theaters, those studios? Are they going to lose their shirts on these movies? We watched Bond get pushed back a couple of weeks ago. Will they lose? Do you think this will become a movie that just dies, or movies that just die?
It's a great question. It could be $1 billion question for some of the studios. And I'm sure that they sat around a table and crunched the numbers. and tried to figure out, what are we going to lose? Can we just wait until the theaters reopen? When will that be? What's that going to do with the movies that are scheduled to come out? You know, picking a theater release, like a movie release date, can be something that happens years in advance. And oftentimes those are dates that are locked down and are not easily moved and changed. And, you know, you look at some of these things like Fast and Furious 9 is pushing more than a year out, because that was the next time they felt that they could put it in the theaters. So I think you're going to see huge tentpole films like the James Bonds, like the Mulans. I think you'll see those being held back and pushed to whatever date they can get another advantageous theatrical release. For the movies that were imminently dropping or that had already dropped, you know, I think that was a much bigger conversation. I mean, to me, the biggest one by far for this to happen to so far is Disney Pixar's Onward, which they released on Friday. And that was a movie that probably would have made $1 billion. And it had been in the theater for 2 weeks. It was the number one movie at the time. It had made over $100 million. So certainly on track to do fantastically. But then all of a sudden, you know, that pipeline is just turned off completely. So now I'm sure the question at Disney was, can we put it out now and recoup some of our money from this? And, you know, but, you know, I just had a conversation with somebody about this exact thing about an hour ago. And with a movie like Onward, you likely have people that were going to see that in the theater, which our family would have done. We see every Pixar movie, and then we would have bought it. So basically it would be double dipping. So now with it coming out for $19.99, which is less than, you know, the 4K release would have been.
No, that's just a rental though, right?
No, that's a purchase.
That's
Onward.
the purchase. Okay.
Yeah, it's a purchase. The other ones are rentals for right now. All the Universal ones are rentals. The Disney is a purchase. For them, you know, now it's going to be a single dip for most people. Or it's going to come out to their streaming service in 2 weeks. So it's going to be free for people. So my family owns Disney stock, so we've been watching that, and it went from a high of 140 to down to 81. I mean, I'm sure that they're saying, what can we do to help something to make some positive news? But what I think you'll see is, these massive films, the ones that the studios are banking on, like, you know, Bond, MGM does not have a lot of other movies in the pipeline. They're not going to screw this up. So to them, it was an easy decision. We're going to push this. But you can see the release window. It's not like we're going to push it to July or August. They had to go to November because that's when they could find another date that worked. But these smaller films, where I think that they're going to start taking a gamble. And I think they're going to get a lot of interesting data from this. And will this move the, you know, early release window market up? You know, will they say, hey, look, we can take some of these movies and we can put them out at home for $19.99 and still make, you know, basically all of the money to the studios instead of, you know, sharing it around however they normally do. You know, the next big one to come out, I think, is tomorrow, is Bloodshot, the Vin Diesel movie. And again, that was going to be another mega blockbuster movie. But it was a thing where they had put all this money into advertising. You know, that money is spent and money's committed. Now what? You got to do something with it. But the first, as you were alluding to, the very first day and date title will be the new Trolls movie, which will open on the 10th. And, you know, if theaters are open by then, not even air quotes, just open. If theaters are open on the 10th, it would come out theatrically, but that will be the first major title, to my knowledge, that will be available day and date at home in a studio. And before I just dominate this conversation with somebody else, one of the things that I find that's so intriguing about this is Universal was one of the initial investing partners of Prima Cinema, which was one of these crazy high-end movie at home products. And the Prima Cinema hardware was $35,000. And all it did was authenticate you to be able to watch these movies, you know, and a hard drive. And then the movies were $500 a viewing. So now we have the same studio that required you to have a $35,000 piece of hardware and spend $500 a viewing, letting you watch that movie on an Apple TV or a Roku stick for $19.99. And that is a gobsmack of a change.
So speaking of that change, and just before we do that, John, in your state, are theaters open?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Again, I don't want you to get thrown out. I'm not running cavalier through crowds, high-fiving and hugging. We're certainly being careful, and people are definitely socially distant. In my neighborhood, people are walking around, and as you approach people, there's this huge, crossing the street. So people are being careful, but restaurants are closed for takeout only. Movie theaters are closed. My gym just closed on Friday. So we're starting to see businesses shutting down, but a lot of like retail. I know Best Buy, the store is open, but Best Buy ceased all in-home services.
Gotcha.
So you could go to Best Buy and pick something up, but you can't. They won't do any in-home services. Like in stores like Walmart, which are traditionally open 24 hours a day, they're curtailing their hours. Now you can't shop from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. for all your grocery needs.
What are you going to do?
I know. Doggone it. So, although funny story, one time we did run there at 4 a.m. to get a birth control test. We just couldn't stand it. We had to know. But theaters, to my knowledge, are all closed, and I think that's a chain decision. And like when AMC says we're closing, I think they all close.
I have no idea how to segue off the birth control at 4 a.m. Sorry.
We weren't, by the way.
One way might be to consider the fact that down the road we're looking at a baby boom of monumental proportions coming. No hockey, no basketball. No baseball, no spring training. So.
There's a joke there, but I don't want to make it. Dennis, let me come to you for a second. I kind of want to see this model maintained. I want to see this become part of, maybe not the norm, but part of the norm.
Sure.
My wife and I, we've got 3 kids under 5 and under. We don't go to the movies. It just. Like I think we've seen 3 movies since we had my son. This is an awesome thing for me. I will spend $20 to rent a movie all day long if it's something that's in theater. Is this, if this changes and becomes part of the norm, is this something that you see that could become the renaissance, if you will, for home theater? Is this something that will drive that into most families, most people want to actually have a good system, not necessarily an expensive system, but a good system, more than just a big TV and a cheesy soundbar?
Well, I can say this. At Home Theater Review, we're seeing our traffic go up. At Cinelux, we're seeing our traffic go up. There's definitely more interest in it. In terms of, is this the new normal or will it be? I mean, I think it's going to be, Hollywood has always kind of said, we can't do this. We're going to make the theaters mad. We can't do this. Well, this is proof they can do it. It's just a matter of, the will and the emergency, I guess. And so I think once people get used to this, once this is all over with, certainly some people are going to want to go back to the movie theater again. But I think a lot of people are going to be like, I liked that whole $20 at home thing, and it's going to be interesting to see the overall impact on Hollywood's numbers in terms of cinematic releases, and commercial cinema releases. So I think look, on Friday, I think it was, on Friday, I had 4 different people message me on Facebook and go, hey, what I need to get a better TV. What TV should I buy? Do I need 75 inches or could I do 65 inches? And so like I was tech support all afternoon for my friends, like, how far are you sitting from your TV? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you need a 75 inch. And so, I think it could be. I hate that it's under these circumstances, but I mean, I'm just, the singular form of data is not anecdote, but anecdotally speaking, I'm just seeing a lot of personal interest amongst my friends who are like, oh, it's time to take this whole home theater thing seriously. So I think it could.
Matt, real quick, I think one of the things that's so different about this is that traditionally that relationship between studio and theater owner, the NATO, the National Association of Theater Owners, I wouldn't say that it's contentious, but I mean, there's a lot of kind of push and pull there, and they realize they kind of need each other. And what's unique in this situation is none of the theaters are open. So by releasing it at home, they're not hurting anyone. So it's a really unique test because the theater owners have no pushback because they're not being hurt.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like, you know, we'll get a lot of data out of that, and this would be fantastic if it does help to move the needle. But I kind of feel like when it's over, the theater owners will go right back to, we need our 6-week window or whatever it is. And, you know, if we don't get that, we're not going to show your movie.
Yeah, but I don't know if that argument is going to fly with John Doe, because John Doe is going to go, well, I mean, you made it work when this happened. Like, so you can still make it work, you know?
John Doe, the public has no input on this.
Yeah, and John Doe's also going to be a lot more distracted once everything is passed. You know, this data is really not even going to be that accurate, probably, because what else do we have to do?
I mean, again, John, if you ask the common person on the street, hey, if you never had to go to the movie theater again and could buy a movie at home for $19, would you like to do that? They'd be, oh man, of course. It's not up to the public. It's up to the studios and the theater owners, ultimately.
No, but doesn't this become kind of the same conversation that the music industry went through, where it was, you had to go to the record store, you had to go buy your CD, buy your vinyl, buy whatever in a store. You couldn't download it, you couldn't do anything. And then all of a sudden they flipped it and it became something where you could get it online. And I'm talking legally, not even everything else.
It's dollars and cents. I mean, if Disney finds out, hey, we can release Soul Brothers or Soul or whatever the next movie is called at home and make our $1 billion that we were going to make in the cinema and make our X hundred million that we were going to do on disc release, I don't think there's any question they would do that. But I think that the theatrical model for bringing in those hundreds and hundreds, even billions of dollars worldwide is currently still where it's at. And I think no matter how much the public wanted, and I think the public most people would be like, yes, I would love to be able to watch Star Wars at home on opening night for $20.
But also, the one thing I would say is, I mean, I agree with you that in terms of the decision itself, the public has no power in this, but the power that they do have is just to be like, no, I'll wait.
Well, they've always had that. I mean, you've always had that power.
Right.
I mean,
wouldn't some of this really go to revenues, though, in terms of, how many people are going to go and see a movie where, is it 3, 4, 5 people that would share that $20 purchase that might be spending the money in the movie theater? So is it going to reduce the revenues for the...
But that's my question for you, Kevin, is if you watch this and the revenue will change and that model will evolve, but if this is, to Dennis's point way back, if this is something where we come out of it and go, wow, we were not aggressive enough, we should have shut stuff down faster, wider and longer. If this is something where this goes on for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to, you'll barely get me in an airplane, let alone into a theater for kicks and giggles for the next year. I'm just not going to do it.
But it'll change. Your feeling on how you would socialize, what you're thinking about today will be different than 3 months after this is over or 6 months after this is over. And people will go back to some normal habits. And there will be some pent-up frustration and pent-up demand for socializing as well, whether it be, things like parties or let's go to the movies because we haven't been able to do that for a while. I think the studios rely on the movie theaters for revenues to be able to drive the people. And I don't know that they could recoup the same numbers by not having the theaters there. So I think they need each other in that aspect. But we're thinking today, okay, we can't do this. We have to cross the street when we see somebody coming and walking down the same sidewalk because of social distancing. But, there will be a time where we want to give that person a hug. because we can. And that'll be pent up in all of us. And I think when we get to the point where we can actually release and show those emotions, there's going to be a lot of emotions out there about, what we've all been through, how we've done this together, and hopefully at that point, how we've overcome this together as a society.
And I don't necessarily think that it's going to be this current crisis that is going to impact our future behavior so much as it is the resurgence, if there is a resurgence. Because if you look at other coronavirus, I'm sorry if I get too geeky, guys, just tell me to shut up. But if you look at other coronaviruses like MERS and SARS and things like that, they went through a life cycle where they mutated to the point that they became ineffective. They basically committed suicide. COVID-19 is going to mutate. The question is it going to do the same thing? Is it going to mutate to the point to where it can't really effectively infect people anymore? Or is it going to mutate to the point to where it's worse? So what's going to happen is we're going to go through this period of social distancing now. We're all going to stay in our houses and have the quarantines and whatever, and it's going to go away. And then in the fall, if this thing doesn't kill itself, it's going to come back, and it's going to come back worse. And we're going to be like, crap, we just went through this and we're now going through it again. And it could be even deadlier. And I think that it's that second outbreak in next fall, next winter, that if it happens is going to permanently change our behavior more so than this one.
And on that, like, super uplifting note.
Sorry.
No, but it is a good point. And, this is one of those things where I keep telling my wife, if this lasts 2 weeks, then it's not going to change behavior. It's not going to change anything. But if this lasts 6 months, it will. Don't laugh at me, John.
I'm not laughing at you.
You're laughing at me, man. It has that potential to change the way we do business, to change the way we live. And I think that's the real important side that I keep seeing in the industry chats and things that I'm involved in, is people trying to figure out how to evolve. So let's wrap it there, and we'll leave Dennis as the highlight of the day.
Oh, no. Somebody talk about puppies, please.
So on a lighter note, does anybody watch TV now or movies and see people together and go, they're really too close together? or like I heard a song yesterday that was streaming, and the guy said something about taking his girlfriend out to dinner, and I'm like, wow, what a long ago time that was, like
it does feel like I'm living in like a Netflix alternate reality TV show thing where, we were driving over to my parents' house last night for dinner, and because we see them all the time. So they're in our social circle before you send me hate mail. Or they're in our quarantine circle, if you will. And I pass a group of like 11 people walking down the street, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, wait, that's one too many. You got to leave that kid home. You can't do that. There. Are you happy, Dennis?
I am.
On that note of me talking about leaving a child at home, not mine, somebody else's, just to be clear.
Right.
Let's wrap it up there. Thank you all so much for joining me on this fun show. Jeremy, if people want to connect with you, learn more about and read everything that's on Residential Tech Today, because they ain't got anything else to do, where can they do that?
Yeah, restechtoday.com, and please subscribe to the magazine and get the digital edition or print if you'd like. We still do that. So thanks for having me.
Of course. Kevin, my friend, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Taurus Power, where can they do that?
So tauruspower.com, that's TORUS power.com. And thanks also for letting me be a part of this today.
Anytime, my friend. Mr. Siaka, if people want to connect with you, learn more about your company, but also everything that you write and pontificate about online, where can they do that?
Twitter, Siaka Tweets, probably the best one.
That's it. That's all you want. That's all you want to plug. Wow.
I was going to say
the one time you gave me like a 2-word answer.
I know. I was going to say they're welcome to swing by my store for a personal demonstration, but I felt like that would not be the right closer.
Just a bit too far.
Yeah, just too much.
Dennis, my friend, thank you so much for joining us. If
Thank
people
you.
want to connect with you, follow up on what you're writing about these days, where can they do that?
Well, I am not writing about the apocalypse at Residential Tech Today, along with Jeremy. I'm also at Cinelux, that is Cinelux.com, and HomeTheaterReview.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you again. For myself, if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter and pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We're extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.